A lot of people don't really know about American Cruise Lines, and let me tell you that we are an American company, an American-owned company, and we've been in business over 25 years, and we are actually a family-owned company as well. We are American flagged, American built, American crewed, and that is important for you to know because that's what allows us to sail between cities within the United States, and that is per the requirements of the Passenger Vessel Services Act. Sounds kind of complicated, but that's why we are able to sail now and enjoy sailing through history along the waterways of the United States. So we have a very large fleet. We have the most modern fleet of anyone that is sailing. We are now up to 13 ships. They are the most environmentally friendly and the most green forward that you will also find. So we are the recognized leader in small ship cruising. We have over 35 itineraries in which you can explore the United States close to home. And that's really important now is, kind of exploring close to home. Many of you have been sailing all over the world, I don't doubt, but really, I bet you haven't seen the United States from the perspective of a small ship and really explored the United States. So our itineraries are specially designed to really delve into history and culture of the United States. So we sail from coast to coast, including Alaska, and we get into places that larger ships simply cannot get into because of the design and the size of our ships. So whether you decide to take a lobster bake cruise that's up in New England, or explore the wilderness of Alaska or in the Puget Sound, or just sail along the Mississippi River from New Orleans all the way up to the headwater of the upper Mississippi River, we have something that you would enjoy. What we're about is simple sophistication. And what does that mean for you? Well, what that means is that when you are sailing with us, really, we are more a relaxed atmosphere, more of a casual atmosphere. We really pay attention to details. We pay attention to the needs of all of our guests, but it's not really expressed through black tie or any kind of formal events. So really what you can expect with us is a relaxing cruise that is more of a sophisticated and refined casual resort atmosphere. And we're all about that, and we're all about the gracious hospitality that you will experience with us as well. So what sets us apart? First of all, our ships, as I had mentioned, the newest and most environmentally friendly small cruise ships and riverboats in the United States. Gracious hospitality means that we have a crew that is there to serve you with a smile. They give you personalized service, and personalized service really means they'll set appointments for you for in the various ports. Maybe you'd like to have your hair done, or maybe you'd like to go somewhere for dinner. That's what our crew will do for you, and they'll do it graciously. We have the best cuisine, honestly. We have it locally sourced and regionally inspired, and we have master chefs. We have spacious amenities, the largest staterooms of any ships that are sailing in the US. Interior entrances, meaning there is no interior cabin. You will always have either a large picture window or a private balcony so that you will always be able to have a view. The private balconies really are really quite large. They average about 60 square feet. And that is a nice size for you to spread out and enjoy. And again, we are an all-American experience, American built, flagged, crewed, and of course we have all those itineraries. So let's just take a quick look now at where we actually sail within the United States. Let's start with the Mississippi River. We have a lot of itineraries along the Mississippi, ranging from 4 nights all the way up to 22 nights, depending on how long you would like to stay with us aboard one of our great ships, paddle wheelers, or a modern riverboat. So 7-night itineraries are about the average for American cruise lines. And along the Mississippi, one of the most popular is between New Orleans and Memphis. That's called our lower Mississippi. And as you can see, it stops in Baton Rouge, Vicksburg on its way to Memphis. That is really, if you're interested in Civil War history, That's a great cruise. We also have a round trip from New Orleans, also a 7-night that goes as far as Vicksburg and then returns. And we have what I like to call a long weekend. That's a 4-night highlights of the Mississippi. And the highlights of the Mississippi actually goes as far as Baton Rouge and returns. If you'd like to spend a little different kind of experience, we have the upper Mississippi that's between St. Paul and St. Louis. That's the heartland, stopping in Hannibal, Missouri, going through Davenport, Iowa, and then into St. Louis, the gateway to the west. Longer cruises include the gateway to the Mississippi, which is northbound from New Orleans up to St. Louis. And we also sail in the Ohio and the Cumberland River, and that's a 10-night that goes between St. Louis and Pittsburgh. And we also have the complete Mississippi, which is northbound from New Orleans to St. Paul. That's the long one at 22 nights. And then we have the Grand Heartland, which is the opposite direction. It is southbound from Minneapolis to New Orleans. New for this year is our Music Cities cruise, and that is between Memphis and Nashville. So from the home of the blues to the country music capital of the world, where you could actually enjoy a performance at the Grand Ole Opry. Moving then to the east, let's start with here, the East Coast. Now, we have a number of itineraries here, and the East Coast, and this is a great way to see the East Coast of the United States and go along the Maine coast. We have a round trip from Portland, a 7-night that goes up as far as Bar Harbor. Sailing along the coast of Maine is a great way to see it, and all the great stops, such as Rockland and Belfast and as I said, Bar Harbor. Another of our 7 nights that's really popular are the New England Islands, and that is a round trip from Boston. But the great thing about it is with our ships, you get to touch on the islands like Block Island, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, and also Newport. Newport is actually located on Aquidneck Island and is a beautiful, beautiful city. This is a great cruise. Another of our 7 nights is the Hudson River, and we only sail this in September and October, so it's really, really popular. And it's round trip from New York as far north as Albany, stopping in places like Kingston, Hyde Park, the home of Franklin D. Roosevelt, West Point, and Sleepy Hollow. Washington Irving's home is called Sunnyside. We have a brand new cruise for 2021, and it is called the Cape Codder. That leaves out of Boston. It's a 7-night, and it goes into some of the islands in Martha's Vineyard, Provincetown. It also visits Nantucket. And then we stop at Woods Hole, and this is really unique because it's the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, which is a private nonprofit research and higher education facility that's dedicated to the study of marine science and engineering. And so this is a great tour to take. And you'll notice that this is the only itinerary where we actually stop in Hyannis, and that is the home of the Kennedy compound as well. If people would like to take a longer cruise, we do have a 10-night called the Grand New England, and that's round trip out of Boston that goes into Maine and then comes down and visits some of the islands as well. The Southeast Coast, this is great. And we had actually our very first cruise on the 13th of March was on the Southeast Coast. And so we have a number of itineraries this way as well. We have 2 out of the Chesapeake Bay. One is a 7-night and one is a 10-night, which is the American Revolution. And they touch into really interesting areas and historic areas like the historic triangle, they call it, which is Johnstown and Yorktown and also Williamsburg. We also have a 7-night between Baltimore and Charleston. And this is really the mid-Atlantic right here, and sailing along the Inland Passage. Neat places such as Beaufort, stopping at Kitty Hawk, Wilmington, and then of course the beautiful city of Charleston. Another of our 7 nights is the historic South and Golden Isles, and that is between Charleston and Jacksonville, and stopping at all the islands along the way. Oh, this is absolutely a wonderful trip. Hilton Head, Jekyll Island, Cumberland Island, and Amelia Island, Fernandina Beach is where we actually dock, just outside of Jacksonville. Some great tours along there as well. But look, also Savannah and St. Simon's Island are some of the stops. Another of our 7 nights is really quite unique, and it's called the Great Rivers of Florida, and that includes the St. Johns River and the Tomalata River. So this is a round trip out of the Amelia Island area. Goes into Palatka, Lake George. We make a visit there, and look, it includes St. Augustine, the oldest city in the U.S. So that's a great trip. For those that would like a longer stay, we do have a 14-night, and that is between Baltimore and Jacksonville, taking in all of the sites along the way. This is a great way to see the coast, the mid-Atlantic coast of the United States. Let's go to the Pacific Northwest now. What you're looking at here is our second most popular cruise, which is the Columbia and the Snake Rivers. And that is between Portland and Clarkston. Along the way, we do great stops such as the Columbia, Astoria up here at the head of the Columbia River. Of course, Mount St. Helens, and last year was the 40th anniversary of the eruption of Mount St. Helens. We have a great tour up at the Johnson Observatory. Multnomah Falls, not to be missed. And then heading into the Dalles, Pendleton, which it sounds familiar because it's the Pendleton Woolen Mills. And then we head into the Snake River, and we go from the lush landscape of the Columbia River Gorge into the more arid and rocky cliffs of the Snake River. There's a longer cruise called the Northwest Pioneers, and that's a 10-night that actually is the same the same directions, but it also makes some additional stops along the way. This is all the Trail of Lewis and Clark. If that's an interest of yours, there you're going to go right in the footsteps of the Lewis and Clark expedition. There's another long weekend cruise out of Portland called the Highlights of the Columbia. Round trip out of Portland, and you will visit Astoria, and you will visit Mount St. Helens and Multnomah Falls, and go as far as Stevenson and then return. So for those of you that don't have a lot of time, consider the Highlights of the Mississippi and the Highlights of the Columbia. Last but not least, well, not quite last, this is the Puget Sound, the last in Pacific Northwest. Puget Sound, I think, is really a terrific trip. We have 2 itineraries, a 7-night, which is Puget Sound, San Juan Islands, and that is round trip out of Seattle, and goes into such historic ports along up in the Sound, and also the San Juan Islands, Anacortes, Friday Harbor, Port Angeles. And here, if the scenic beauty of this area, the whale watching, the wildlife that you would see. Also, we have a 10-night, which is also, again, out of Seattle. It does go all the way through the San Juan Islands and then further south into the Tacoma area here and into Olympia and the Olympia National Park area down there. Here is last but not least, this is Alaska. And yes, we are sailing in Alaska this year. And the reason, as I said at the beginning of the presentation, is because we are American flagged. And that means we do not have to touch a foreign port when we are sailing in Alaska, like the big ships have to. And that's why they can't sail, because they need to stop in a foreign port such as Vancouver, and Canada has closed the borders. So here is a terrific once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to sail in Alaska on a small ship under 200 passengers. None of our vessels is over 200 passengers, and sail here and experience Alaska up close and personal, getting into sheltered coves that others can't, that the big ships can't get to, and without crowds. So we have a 7-night Southeast Alaska, which is round trip out of Juneau. Glacier Bay is included here, Haines and Skagway, Petersburg, Cake, Tracy Arm, and a longer one called the Alaska Explorer does take in all of these locations, but goes a bit further south into Wrangell and Ketchikan. And we do have the inland passage as well, the inside passage between Seattle and Juneau, and that's a 14 night. These are wonderful opportunities. In Glacier Bay, actually, we have access, are the only non-excursion vessel that has access. We had a 2-day pass into Glacier Bay. We have a park ranger that boards the vehicle or the vessel with us and talks about the geology and the geography of the area. And we have a Tlingit cultural interpreter that comes on board as well that talks about the culture and the indigenous peoples in the area. And can you imagine enjoying our hot chocolate bar on the observation deck as you're sailing along Tracy Arm? It's just gorgeous. So really, this is the time to take a unique vacation and to travel with American Cruise Lines. For those of you that like to really kind of focus on something, a particular topic or destination, we have themed cruises such as food and wine. It's particularly popular up in the Columbia and Snake River. As you can see from the slide, what we're doing here is we're overlooking Mount Hood, is kind of out of the distance there, from the Mary Hill Winery, which is one of the stops. And they, you see the winery itself and then have a tasting. So food and wine, culinary cruises we have in the Mississippi, and in the Northeast, we have lobster bake cruises where we'll feed you lobster until you pop. We have crab fest cruises. We have music themed cruises. We have a Mark Twain theme in the upper Mississippi, where we have a gentleman who is in character that sails with the upper Mississippi cruise. And he has a trivia night where you can actually speak to him and he will answer as though he was Mark Twain. We have holiday cruises, Thanksgiving and Christmas, a colonial Christmas on the American Revolution cruise. So many different kinds of opportunities here. Guided shore excursions, we do not have any hop on, hop off. We have only guided, and we have 3 different kinds. We always include featured, which are complimentary cruises or excursions in our cruises for your enjoyment. And we also have what we call our premium excursions. And these are more in depth, might be a bit longer, and they are very reasonably priced, between $20 and $70 per person. Well, let me give you an example. The Cajun Bayou exploration, which is out of Natchez, Baton Rouge, excuse me. And it actually goes through a swamp on a pontoon boat. That's an example of a premium tour. Signature tours are those that are very limited availability and usually have a high activity level, such as a fishing charter in Petersburg or flight seeing. Or we also have brand new VIP Graceland exploration in Memphis, where you actually spend a full day and you will have front of the line access to Graceland Museum, to the entertainment complex, Elvis's entertainment complex, all of the grounds. And that is a wonderful tour, especially if you're an Elvis fan. Our ships, this is why we can sail where we sail. Okay, Constellation class are those that sail along the coast, 170 guests. The Constellation is the one that will actually sail up in Alaska. Constitution is on the East Coast. Independence class are those that also sail Puget Sound and along the coast. There are 100 guests. And we have 3 of those, the Independence, the Star, and the American Spirit. The modern riverboats really are unique to us in their design. The American Song, the American Harmony sail up in the Columbian Snake. Those are the first and second in the series. And the American Jazz and the American Melody are on the Mississippi River. In fact, the American Jazz sailed on a cruise on the 27th of March. And then we have the paddle wheelers. If you would enjoy an authentic experience on one of our modern paddle wheelers, there's the America, the Queen of the Mississippi, the America Pride, and the Queen of the West, which are up in the Columbian Snake. Of all of our ships, again, we have the most spacious accommodations, and we have private balconies on almost all of the vessels themselves. We do have the largest staterooms anywhere, as I was saying. So full-size private bathrooms. So you're walking into essentially a hotel room. You have your own private balcony. You have plenty of space. You have luxurious accommodations. We have, of course, your twice daily stateroom service, private balconies. You can see one in the background there. We have elevator access on to all decks on all of our ships, room service for breakfast, and onboard Wi-Fi. On our ships, let me tell you, we also have laundry facilities for your guests. We have fitness rooms as well. And one other thing that we have are single accommodations at single rates. A lot of our guests like to travel alone. And this is very spacious as well. Imagine this at 275 square feet. Okay. American Cruise Line's difference here on the onboard amenities. Well, first of all, we include all the gratuities. Tips are neither expected nor accepted aboard. We have top shelf cocktails. In the evening, we have reception. We do have also complimentary hotel packages as well. Wine and beer, lunch and dinner, entertainment every night, and enrichment programs. Well, here's the cuisine. Oh, it's fantastic. And because we're small, we can always accommodate almost any dietary restriction. Enrichment is like guest lecturers and experts. This gentleman is on the Lewis and Clark Northwest Pioneers themed cruise as well. Operating protocols. Okay. With COVID-19, please know that American Cruise Lines is committed to safety and to reducing the risk aboard our ships. Because we're small, we offer the greatest amount of space per passenger. That means that we are able to sail at 75% capacity and maintain adequate social distancing. We are operating smaller groups for our excursions, all with private transportation that is completely sanitized between excursions. Yes, we're operating in a bubble. You cannot wander off by yourself. You must stay with the excursion itself. We do require masking in all public areas. But one of the most important things to know about American Cruise Lines is that we do not have shared ductwork between rooms and in any public spaces, therefore really reducing risk. All of the details in greater detail can be found on our website at americancruiselines.com, or please talk to a Bon Voyage advisor and they will go through them with you. We have an exclusive offer for you as show attendees, and we're really pleased to offer this, and it is exclusive to Bon Voyage Travel, a $600 savings per room on any cruise. Now you must book between today, April 9th and April 23rd, but you can travel anytime